forget about the Pac-12. Don't forget about USC. We won't let you do that here at Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football, because we are the voice of college football, and we actually don't go with the groupthink mainstream media or just lock in on the college football playoff. We cover all of college football, and of course, we looked at USC and Washington State tonight, and it wasn't much of a game. The Cougars came in at 1-1, and the Trojans 3-0 now. A perfect 4-0 in the Pac-12 with by far their most impressive performance. Please like the video. Leave us your comments about the Pac-12, USC, and college football down below. Share the videos on social media. Here's the deal, folks. You're on Twitter. You're on Facebook. Most of the people that you contact and have conversations with on Twitter and Facebook and other social media don't know we're here. Please let them know that for the best in discussion, debate, and analysis, that's our goal, that's our aim, that's our mission each and every day. We are here, so let people know about the voice of college football. And also subscribe. Hit that bell for the notifications. That way you know when we're going live. USC ran away from Washington State 38-13, and it wasn't quite that close. Washington State got the ball first, and they moved it down the field. Looked pretty good. In doing so, let me put my glasses on because I can't see a thing I wrote down. Renard Bell's number one in the Pac-12 in receiving yards per game. Had a decent game at 11 catches for 76 yards, but notice just about 7 yards per reception. Not doing impactful damage against USC's defense. Washington State had a 4th-and-1 play at the USC 35 on the opening drive of the game. Could not convert even though the replay showed that USC was in the neutral zone. Washington State should have been awarded a first down at the USC 30 on the first drive of the game. Would that have mattered? Probably not, but at least Washington State would have been in prime scoring position right there. So missed call by the officials right out of the gate. Drake London is emerging as a superstar. He does something that it's funny because I'm watching the game and it's going through my mind, and then the analyst on the broadcast, on the Fox broadcast, brought it up after he did it 2 or 3 times. Drake London, you see a lot of players make catches toward the sideline, and they are content with just going out of bounds. You also have players that are thinking too early about making their move, and they drop some passes because you see the head start to turn, and they're thinking about where the defender is and how they're going to make their move. Drake London is the best of both worlds. He secures the catch, but he also has a plan of what he's going to do, and he is not satisfied with just catching the ball, getting out of bounds, or going down. He's got a move to make. He's looking for extra yardage. We saw that time and time again tonight. Special athlete for USC. Among that receiving core that might be the best, near the best in college football, I still like Alabama's weapons, of course. But USC's right up there and certainly the best unit in the Pac-12 at wide receiver. Want to give some credit here. This was not credited on the broadcast. First drive of the game, Drake London, with all the good things he did fumble inside the 5-yard line. Jalen McKenzie, big number 70 for USC, recovered the fumble. Otherwise, Washington State would have gotten the ball back. I reviewed this play 3 times. No mention was made of who recovered the fumble. Jalen McKenzie, number 70, credit to the offensive lineman for jumping on the football. Otherwise, USC does not score on the slant play from Amon-Ra St. Brown. His first of 4 touchdowns on the night. 4 touchdowns on 8 catches, 465 yards for Amon-Ra St. Brown. The first one was easy on the slant. The defensive backs, I don't know why they do this. The slant is the easiest play. Boom, it's right in the middle of the field. The quarterback just bam. If you're going to get beaten, get beat behind you. The ball's at the 4-yard line. Get beat behind you. Make them throw it over you. So the defensive back was playing to the outside. It was an easy slant. Touchdown. The next drive was more impressive in regards to what Amon-Ra St. Brown had to do to score the touchdown over Armani Marsh. Tremendous hands catch. Outfought the defensive back for the touchdown, 14-0. Washington State still had opportunities, even though they were clearly outclassed in this game. And I got to say, I was a bit surprised that they were, because USC came in as a solid 11-point favorite, but the way the Trojans had played, the way Washington State had played coming in, losing a close game to Oregon, they competed, they were in that game, And then they also had an opening night win against a pretty good Oregon State team. But on this night, Trojans' talent way too much. Jameer Calvin should have come down with a bomb play in which he whipped Elijah Griffin down the right sideline when this was still a game. It was 14-0, but he dropped what would have been a 50-yard completion on that one. Just a few plays later, Talanoa Ufanga, one of the most impressive athletes that you're going to see on the defensive side of the ball this year. He really stood out to me last year in watching USC. Ufanga made a tremendous, if you didn't watch the game, look up the interception that he made. It was a tremendous play, batting the ball, finding it in the air, and making an athletic play. Elijah Griffin also had a big interception in this game in the first half for USC as they ran away with it. Again, Ross St. Brown had 4 touchdowns. Tyler Vaughn's with the other touchdown as Keaton Slovis, I think I've got his numbers here. He was something in the range of 25 of 32 for about 280. Can't find his numbers here, but something in that range. 5 touchdown passes. Keaton Slovis looking good. We had documented his shoulder issues over the course of a couple weeks in which he did not quite look himself. We expected earlier in the week to see Washington State's most productive player, Max Borghi, back in the lineup. 86 catches last year, 817 rushing yards. One of the more unheralded backs in the nation, both rushing and receiving, 11 touchdowns out of the backfield as a running back and another 5 as a pass receiver last year, but he was held out one more week. Deion McIntosh has done a nice job replacing Borghi. 10 carries tonight, 65 yards, 7 yards per carry over the course of the season for Washington State. USC, for a team that won 38-13, that had 35 points on the board like that, only had like 270 yards of total offense. So they did a ton of damage, had a big lead, just cruised after that. 20 rushing attempts for just 5 yards for USC in this one. Washington State, the quarterback position, they were not getting protection, number one. Number two, the quarterback did not play well. The freshman Jaden DeLaura has had a decent season coming in, 4 touchdowns and a pick. But in this one, 2 interceptions, 18 for 29. Gunnar Cruz came in and threw a touchdown for Washington State. Also, Cameron Cooper, a prized recruit from a couple years ago, came into the game. We'll see if they've got a quarterback situation, Nick Rolovich, on his hands in which he will make a decision on where they go going forward. All right. Let's look at the playoff situation for USC. They needed a commanding win. They got it. So they have improved week to week. The first week, they basically pulled the rabbit out of the hat in scoring 2 touchdowns in the final 4 minutes to beat Arizona State 28-27. The next week, they should have had control of the game against an outmanned Arizona team, but they left them in the game. They came back time and time again late in the game, won it 34-30 in the final minute. Those were not impressive, although Arizona State was supposed to be one of the best teams in the Pac-12. But the last 2 outings, they dominated Utah. They had control of the game. They didn't crush Utah, but they had control of the game, 33-17 win. And now they perform like this against Washington State, in which, bam, it's 35-zip. They blew them out. So they needed this confidence check here going into the big rivalry game against UCLA. The Bruins are playing much better. 3 consecutive wins for UCLA. Chip Kelly's maybe got something going. They finally, USC, showed what they're capable of doing because Washington State's been decent. They're not great, but they're a top 50 or 60 team in the nation. And USC separated. Maybe they have separated themselves from the rest of the Pac-12, which is beating itself. Even Oregon is losing to the likes of Oregon State and Cal. So everybody else is just beating themselves. As soon as you think somebody's good, they lose. Washington, we thought they were good. They lose to Stanford, who we didn't think was any good. They jump up and beat Washington. Everybody's losing in the Pac-12 except Colorado, and we'll get to that situation in just a second. So USC at 4-0, and the wins are getting more impressive. Do they have a shot at the college football playoff? Well, conventional wisdom would be no, don't play enough games. The Pac-12 is not considered to be good, which shouldn't factor into this college football playoff selection committee. You cannot go with your perception. Now, if the Pac-12 had played non-conference games and showed themselves not to be a good conference, that would be one thing. But we're not judging the Pac-12, or should not be, based on 2019 or 2016 or 2015, but we know that's what's going on. So USC, the best they can do is go 6-0 going into the conversation and selection of a playoff spot. This is what USC needs. They need the SEC, the ACC, and the Big Ten to go chalk, meaning Notre Dame sweeps Clemson out. Alabama sweeps Florida, gone. Ohio State, undefeated, wins. So it's a clear Alabama, Notre Dame, Ohio State selection. That's 3 spots. But Clemson's out with 2 losses. Florida's out with 2 losses. It certainly would not hurt if Texas A&M dropped a game to either Tennessee or Ole Miss in the makeup game. So Texas A&M now at 7-1 certainly has more impressive wins, namely Florida and also Auburn to a certain extent, and an SEC grind than USC would. So Texas A&M at 9-1, USC at 6-0. Tough call, but I go Texas A&M on that one. Despite the loss, it's to the best team in the country. Cincinnati 8-0 right now, 2 games against Tulsa, the regular season finale and the American Conference Championship game. Imagine in years past comparing a 6-0 USC team against a 10-0 Cincinnati team. Well, it would have favored USC each and every time, but not anymore. You can make the case that Cincinnati's schedule is more difficult than USC's, and they will potentially, if they can play these next 2 weeks, have 4 additional games. So Cincinnati needs to go down in one of these 2 games against Tulsa. If those happen, Bama wins the SEC, Notre Dame the ACC, Ohio State the Big Ten. Cincinnati goes down, Texas A&M goes down at some point. Why not USC at 6-0? 6-0 USC, and it certainly wouldn't hurt, based on the eyeball test, that if USC would dominate UCLA, dominate the winner of the Pac-12 North, maybe USC sneaks in. Still a long shot, but a possibility. Is this the best team in the Pac-12? Most certainly it is. Oregon was clearly the best team in the conference last year in 2019. They had the slip-up, which cost them a college football playoff appearance in losing to Arizona State late in the season, but we see what Justin Herbert's doing in the NFL. They had an NFL quarterback, a legit NFL quarterback, one of the best offensive lines in the nation, a fast, explosive defense. They dominated an 8-1 Utah team in the Pac-12 championship game. They defeated Wisconsin, a top 10 to 12 team in the Rose Bowl. Justin Herbert gone. Tyler Shough has been decent as a freshman. Don't discard what he's done. He's got a lot of growing to do and developing, but he's played decent. But the offensive line has gone from the most experienced in college football to, get this, the least experienced, with only one game started out of the offensive line prior to 2020. They've got marginal weapons at wide receiver, C.J. Verdell at running back, of course, and they have turned the ball over all over the place, have not played well. Mario Cristobal has this Oregon program in the right direction. I just think it's the season. It's 2020. They're 3-2. They're just not going to accomplish what they had hoped for this season, losing to Oregon State and Cal. Utah was an 8-1 football team in the Pac-12 last year, but when they matched up head-to-head with USC, even though Utah was the more consistent team week to week to week, what happened? They were outclassed by USC's athletes. Now Utah has lost Tyler Huntley at quarterback. They've lost, of course, Zach Moss at running back. 7 NFL draft selections off that Utah team from last year, including 3 in the defensive secondary in the first 3 rounds of the draft. Jalen Johnson, also Julian Blackman, and Terrell Burgess drafted off that team. So USC, best team. Keaton Slovis comes back after 1 full season under his belt, 30 touchdowns, 9 picks. 4 capable running backs that have different skill sets, the best wide receiver core in the conference. The offensive line was the question mark coming into this season, and if Todd Orlando's defense would be effective as a whole. Individually, Hufanga, Drake Jackson, Elijah Griffin, they have tremendous talent, but will they come together? Well, the last 2 games out, they certainly have in shutting down Utah and Washington State. USC's the best team in the Pac-12. Will they get a shot at a college football playoff? Well, they've got to take care of business first against UCLA. We'll preview that game later this week. And, of course, the Pac-12 championship game. Let's talk it up right here at Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Smash that like button and subscribe. Hit that bell for the notifications. That way you know when we're going live. Let's talk USC.